What's up, everyone? It's Invisible Walls, episode 98, live and direct from GDC, Game Developers Conference 2010 in San Francisco. I believe this is our first ever show on the road. Is that right?
I believe that is correct, sir.
Yeah,
but
it's our first show outside of the Game Trailers offices. We're actually in our little satellite office up in San Francisco. Please forgive the audio this week. We're doing the best we can, but we're kind of shoved into a room here with some bad acoustics. We'll do the best we can to tune it up before the show goes out. An awesome show so far. We actually just got back from Sony's big Move press conference where they showed off the motion controllers in full for the first time, gave them a name. We'll definitely get into that. We got an all-star cast here today, a very special surprise sitting in on the show today, Daniel Kaiser. Welcome aboard once again, brother.
Hey, man. Always good to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me. It's GDC week. Excited to talk about all this stuff.
That's right. DK is the host of Epic Battle Cry, the other video podcast on GameTrailers.com, our brothers in pod, so to speak.
Hell yeah.
That's one of the worst things I've ever heard in my entire life.
Oh, come on, Ryan. You've been around me long enough to hear things way worse than that.
Yeah. Like, what did you think Git meant?
I have no idea still what it means. And as you figured out by now with his snide remark, Ryan Stevens is on the show this week.
I'm very snide. Also clever.
Miguel Lopez just landed and came straight in to record the show. How's it going, Miguel?
Good, but it's not what my name tag says. Can't read, man.
Miguel's coming in to sort of pull up the rear with our GDC coverage to make sure we do it right from the show floor. We actually haven't even gone to the show floor yet. It hasn't opened. We've already been here for 3 days working. There's so many pre-GDC events going on here, and we'll talk about a lot of those as well. And also on the show, one of the other voices of Game Trailers, Rich Brown.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Rich, do your imitation of Duke Nukem.
That one.
Balls of steel.
No, what was it? It was, oh yeah. It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
That's actually from They Live. Anyone likes movies with wrestlers in them. And I know Rich actually does.
What?
All right, we got a lot to talk about. Let's do it. All right, we're going to get right to the PlayStation Move, as you might have guessed, as we just came back from checking out the press conference, and they had a nice little post session with all the games set up. We got to fill around with the controllers for a few hours. Got to play a bunch of games. In fact, a bunch of them that weren't shown at the press conference, so we'll talk about those in depth. First of all, let's just kind of go around the horn and get everyone's impressions of the PlayStation Move. Now, not everyone here was at the press conference, but you guys have all seen the videos that they showed at the press conference. DK, what's your initial impressions based upon what you've seen so far?
Sure. So, I wasn't there, but I saw the videos. And, it seems cool. It seems like it's definitely going to, add something to what Sony's offering in terms of the PlayStation as a whole. I am just, in general, concerned about this whole movement of motion controls because I don't know how much of it is predicated on actually wanting to pioneer and actually be innovative within the gaming space, or if it's just wanting to cash in on what Nintendo has done, So with Natal and with Sony, I'm just really concerned about this whole movement and what it means for traditional gaming. But we'll have to see more about this. I was happy to see that they hired the exact same production company that Microsoft did to do the Natal videos because it looks exactly the same.
You're right.
So I don't know. Obviously, the verdict is still out. I'm cautious. That's the word for me.
Mr. Stevens, you were there.
I was there, and I left immediately afterwards. I was very underwhelmed.
Not because you wanted to, because...
No, I did want to. I'd rather go edit video than stick around here. I was completely underwhelmed. I felt what they showed at E3, the raw tech demos looked a lot better than these final products. I agree with Kaiser that it fits into their whole new thing of it only does everything. Look, it plays Blu-rays, and it's a Wii.
Yeah.
I don't know, SOCOM, there's a game, but it looks like I'm playing Red Steel from 4 years ago. I don't know, I didn't play it, you played it. And also, Subcontroller, hilarious.
Well, nunchuck. They couldn't call it a nunchuck. So.
Yeah, right. Subcontroller. Hilarious. Really underwhelmed. Love the technology. not so fond of the implementation so far.
What do you think of the big ball on the end of it? How do you guys all feel about that?
I want to lick it.
It looks
I mean, I want to cup it gently in my hand.
I was about to
mean-
say it. I want to see Ryan lick it.
Yeah, that's what me and
I
Miguel are
don't.
doing after
Where's
this.
my camera?
It's
Let's shoot
actually
it.
really awkward to think about the controller because it's one of those things that if it was just laying around in your house and like your mom came in or your potential girlfriend or whatever stopped by and you saw this thing laying around, it doesn't really look like a video game controller. It looks like it has some alternative uses.
I think
Yeah.
the word you're looking for is dildo.
Yeah, that's exactly. Ding dong, you nailed it on
It
the
looks
head.
like
Well,
a
the Wii
deal,
remote,
though.
the Wii remote looks cool. Like
Yeah.
you can lay it on your coffee table. It looks like it's a remote for any other piece of electronics. This definitely stands out. I asked Scott Rohde in the interview afterwards. I'm like, are you guys going to be able to like personalize these, like let people buy stars or whatever? Because it looks like you can just kind of screw it on the top. He didn't really want to talk about it, but I'm hoping that you can use something besides that huge ball that you can screw on there and it'll still pick it up.
You know what it looks like? It looks like one of those battery-operated bubble blowers that you buy at the, as seen on TV kiosk at the mall.
Yeah.
Yeah. How heavy is the controller?
It's extremely light. Extremely. Like, it felt like there were no batteries in it at all. Like, the Wii Remote feels light until you put the batteries in it, then it's got a little bit of weight. But I was really surprised how light these controllers were.
Is it using like double A's, or do you recharge it just like a regular PlayStation?
No, you
controller?
recharge it like a PlayStation controller.
Okay.
It plugs in with the same exact cord that you use to plug in your DualShock 3. It works exactly the same. It has like the power button on the side, I believe, or the start button's on the side. It has the PlayStation button on the top for the cross media bar, and it has like a new wave button, so to speak, which is basically like the A button on the Wii remote, but they put like the little wave logo or
New Wave?
the Move logo. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
So-
Did it have vibration?
Yeah,
Like
it does.
seagulls
Yeah.
gonna come.
I think vibration is pretty important to a controller like that. Otherwise, you don't get that sort of feedback from what you're doing with it. And
Right.
the limited playtime I had with the demos, I felt like the feedback was handled really well and pretty cleverly, and helped sell the games a little bit more than just watching somebody else play them. So what about the games that they showed? I mean, they have kind of their version of Wii Sports. I think they said that there's going to be 6 games in it. I think Wii Sports had 11 or 12. I can't quite remember. But I played the bowling game. Not so good so far. And let's keep in mind, too, that these are very early games.
Right.
Yeah, most of them are pre-alpha.
And that's not surprising, isn't it, that the first spate of games for this thing are going to be largely rehashes of what we've seen before.
Yeah, I mean, there's table tennis, there's bowling, there's sword play games.
Think about Nintendo. I mean, they've been doing this for years now. And
Yeah.
arguably, you could say that they haven't meaningfully iterated on what they've did with Wii Sports. I mean, they've increased the breadth of Wii Sports Resort.
Well, they have the
Where-
Wii Motion Plus, obviously. I think they've bumped up the ante a little bit with that.
Right. But in terms of what you're seeing from the games, you're still kind of doing the same thing. I mean, there's a hope that we will see something meaningful in the next Zelda. With
But what
Sword.
more is there? I mean, we're already replicating the real movement. I mean, what more can you do?
I guess it's going to take.
I guess it's up to them. That's
Have you
their
seen
job.
Minority Report?
You're what?
Have you seen Minority Report?
I have.
I want that. I want to be like.
Well, Natal
That's more
does
Natal.
that.
there.
That's more
Boom.
Yeah,
Natal.
that's more Natal.
So,
It's-
this is my whole question to you guys on this whole thing with the motion controls is this really going to be the future of gaming, or is this a total freaking fad? You know, Nintendo's losing steam. I mean, look, what they're doing is good, but like you said, meaningfully implementing the technology into something that that reaches us as core gamers. I
You know,
mean, is that what Microsoft and Sony are going to do, or is this going to still be just another, hey, grandma could play now, so enjoy your PS3?
It could be something that develops in parallel with the games that we already play. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I asked them that question too afterwards when I was doing the interview with the execs. I was like, well, you're the VP of Worldwide Studios for PlayStation. How are you going to allocate your resources? How are you going to look at all your development studios? What percentage of those guys are going to be working on motion control games? What percentage will be working on the classic games that we've been playing all this time? And he looked at me. He's like, "What am I in a budget meeting?" And I was like, "No, I'm trying to
a
figure
relevant
out."
question.
Like,
He
trying
just
to
won.
figure out
You
what
should have
he
said
said.
It's a
yes.
solid question.
Yeah, bro. Right.
I need an answer.
He just wanted softball questions like, "How cool is your?" You know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they expect that from any of the journalists in the industry. I think they expected they were going to get tough questions, but he wasn't willing to answer that. And I think my big disappointment was that we didn't see a game from Insomniac, or we didn't see a game from Naughty Dog, or any of the really big sort of second-party developers to really see how they're going to implement this into their games, how they're going to affect the games that we're used to playing DK, and how they're going to change those games.
I still think some of the stuff we saw at E3 was way more interesting, like the archery and then like or the war game where you kind of like pulled back into the tanks and like plop stuff down, and like the fun, or even like this stuff is all kind of simple, play it real quick, everything kind of mini game. But even the weird like fun stuff like writing your name or like flopping. What did Marcus say? You're like splooging everywhere, like throwing the.
No,
paint.
they had that stuff there afterwards.
They did, okay.
Yeah, they had demos for almost all that stuff. I mean, truth be told, the breadth of what they showed was pretty good. But I think at the end of it all, the only thing I saw that controller does that the Wii doesn't do is the augmentation, which is the pulling the object into the game. So say you're holding the remote, but it looks like you're actually holding a sword. Mm-hmm. That was the only thing that they really showed today that I don't feel like the Motion Plus can handle. Sure, it's maybe a little more sensitive than Motion Plus. But
And didn't the iToy kind of do that in a ghetto style before too?
Yeah.
Like if you posed in certain things.
But, they're saying, well, you can turn your back to move and it still works. Whereas if you're working with the Wii Remote and Motion Plus, it doesn't work that way. Although when they demoed it on stage, he spun around and it didn't work the first time. The second time it did work. I think that's the thing, is you have to provide something that people are going to see and they're like, I'm not getting that somewhere else. That's what's going to convince people to buy something. And with the Wii, everybody saw that. They're like,
Sure.
oh my gosh, like I've never seen anything like this. Everybody jumps on. But now when you're trying to sort of trump that, you really have to do something special. And what I saw today doesn't do that.
You think it's going to take the Naughty Dogs, the Insomniacs, the Epics of the world to really make these games that
I think it
you
will.
wanna
I mean,
see?
Nintendo had Zelda when they launched the Wii. I mean,
nobody's doing that for Nintendo though. Like Nintendo's the only company that's making those games for the Wii. You could argue maybe Red Steel that's a step in the right direction, but
yeah.
none of these mega studios are doing that.
That's because they lost their ass when they tried to make a decent Wii.
Were
Sure,
any of these
and
games developed by Japanese studios?
I have
tonight?
no idea. No idea at all.
If you were to go out on a limb,
I mean, if
didn't look like
based
it.
upon all the interviews I did afterwards with the developers at the kiosks, it was all Europe and a couple people from the U.S. Most of the people I talked to were from Europe, so
Okay.
it looks like they have most of their European studios working on this stuff right now. But I'm sure eventually it'll get out to everybody. I didn't talk to anybody from Japan, but they could have had U.S. producers there to answer questions just because of the language barrier. They didn't want to deal with translators, so there's really no way to know, honestly. But it seemed to me that most of the games were coming from Europe.
Video games as we know them, I just fear that they're trying to change them because in the moment they see the opportunity to capitalize on an untapped market, which has already been tapped. That's what Nintendo did. So
Right.
they're not actually, that they need to realize that market's not even really there as much as they might think it's there. So sure, implementing this technology and doing this type of stuff for the betterment of gaming in general and to provide that type of experience on your console, both with Natal and Move, is a wise business decision. But like, we have to leave it at that, honestly, because to me, if you're not going to be able to implement these in a manner that is going to make the gaming experience more meaningful, and the only way I see to do that is to actually have it be partially implemented so that there are portions of the game to where it's not forced in and like the entire frickin' game you're like, having to stand there and do that. Gamers, us as gamers, we don't want to do that. We want to play games. Maybe eventually, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but
I'm not a gamer.
No, I mean,
I'm
I
a player.
agree.
That's right.
I absolutely agree.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We-
because
we
looking
want-
at SOCOM 4, it's like that's going to be more comfortable with the controller than it is with the Wii.
Did you
HD
play
But
controller,
I wouldn't agree with that 100% because I really like Metroid Prime 3. And once I played a shooter with those controls, I actually preferred to play a shooter with those controls, with the pointer and an analog stick. I felt like I had more precision. It wasn't quite as quick maybe, but I felt like if I had played several games with those controls, I would get just as good with that.
Yeah,
as,
the Conduit was awesome.
yeah, I didn't play the Conduit, but yeah, I don't think we should just write it off and say, well, they should just. I mean, you'll have the option to play SOCOM if you want
Right.
with a controller, but I think we played Metroid Prime 3. We've already played games with those kind of controls. I think they have to find a new angle. Sort of the running joke I heard from 4 different people after that event was, well, they finally announced the Wii HD.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that
the
was
truth.
all over the
And
place.
from your perspective, obviously a lot of
Pactor was right.
I actually saw Pactor right after the event, and he got a nice chuckle out of that.
a lot of money has been invested, a lot of time, a lot of thought has been invested. Why? My question is, why do you think Sony and Microsoft now, why are they bothering doing this? Why aren't they focusing on other stuff?
Because they're getting their
Why do you
asses
think?
handed to them.
Okay, well, no, I know, but I want to hear the not only the logical conclusion for now, but what this is doing to the medium moving forward, because this is the major players.
I don't think that's up to them to answer. I think that's up to the developers. They're being given this new tool set, and whether or not it succeeds.
And what we got is this.
Well, yeah, whether or
So
not
far-
whether or not it succeeds, it's up to them. However seriously they want to take it, and however much they want to devote to that.
I mean, I think a lot of it is they just want to give consumers one less excuse to buy the Wii. I think, it is almost like a checklist. It's like, well, can they do motion controls? Can they do fitness stuff? Can they give me the stuff that Nintendo's giving me in addition to giving me the Blu-ray player, giving me the HD visuals? So yeah, I don't think that for Microsoft or Sony, they're counting on this becoming the majority of their business or overrunning their business. I think at E3, you're going to see a ton of Natal stuff, but I think you're also going to see a lot more traditional games from the third parties. And so maybe they devote some of their first-party resources to making these motion control games. They're still making traditional games, and then they lean a little more on the third parties and make sure that they have that cachet of games for people like us who may not be completely sold on motion controls yet. So let's just go around the horn really quick, and after this event and what you guys have seen, has it increased or decreased your interest in Sony's motion controls? Rich?
Right now, I'm not sold on it.
And Rich, you saw all the games.
Yeah.
You've been around with us as we demoed them all
Yeah.
and shot them all.
I saw the games. I mean, I was impressed with one. Like, actually, no, two. I will say visually, I was impressed with two, but I am not completely sold on it yet. No way.
Miguel? But you didn't answer the question, Rich. Have you increased your interest in the motion controls, or has it decreased?
I'd say decreased.
Decreased.
Yeah.
Miguel?
I never had much interest to begin with. I'm skeptical about this stuff. I'll go on and say it. I think there are some cool games on the Wii, but for the most part, I don't think anybody's come up with an application for this technology that really sells me on it as an interface to supplant the one we already have, right? Most of what's out there is stuff that tries to sort of replicate dual analog sticks and not very successfully. Ironically, the weekends I like the best are the ones that don't even try to go there, the ones that are more parlor games. I think that's cool, but I like to see something beyond that. So I don't know. Nothing I saw today really, and granted I wasn't there, but nothing I saw on video today really sold me on it, to be honest.
Stevens?
I'd say slightly decreased. I still think of E3, and I think the tech's great, but the software and the commercial software. And again, I didn't see all of it, but from what I did see, nothing's really making me go woohoo.
Kaiser?
Well, as I stated, I mean, I am very cautious about the whole thing, although I will
You don't
say,
sound like a fan of motion controls in general.
well, and only because I don't want to see traditional gaming get sacrificed on behalf of this, because I realize that this is a business, and I realize what Nintendo was able to accomplish, and when I see Microsoft and Sony trying to move in on that, and I worry that they're going to force this into traditional gaming, and we are going to become dinosaurs, the guys who want to sit down and play a 40-hour RPG with a controller in our
No,
hands.
they'll just combine it into World of Warcraft.
And if they can combine it smartly, great. I will say that my interest has, if I only have increased or decreased, I'll say increased, simply because I think the possibilities of what Sony could do that Nintendo can't do, considering the power of the PlayStation, is intriguing. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say that I'd like to see what happens when the thing ships and get it in my hands myself.
I'm with DK. I think they kind of came out with a bit of a thud today. I think they could have done a much better job. They've been working on this technology for 2 years. They still didn't have a substantial first-party game to really show at the coming out party. I think that's a bit of a disappointment. But I'm not against motion controls. I think they can work. I don't think there's been a whole lot of games where they do work well. But I'm all about pushing the industry forward. I think if we sit still, then we die. I think that's why the industry has grown. That's why the sales minus last year have been incredible over the last few years. We brought new people into the hobby, and I think to keep those people into the hobby, we need to keep pushing it forward. I haven't been a fan of all the motion control games that have come out, but some of them that I've liked a lot. And as I went around the floor today and played 12 or so demos for the PlayStation controller, I was having fun. It was a different kind of fun. Like, you'll probably see if you look at any of the videos that have been running during this segment, like, I'm smiling, I'm laughing. It's a goofy kind of fun. It's not a serious, like, I'm going to hunker down and whoop this game's ass kind of fun. It's just like that sort of inner childhood glee that you can get from trying something for the first time. And so I think they put a good foot forward first. I think it could have been a better foot. I think I'm going to wait to pass any serious judgment at E3 when we really get to see a substantial game running with this controller that I think will sort of relate to our interests and the styles of games that we like. All right, so next we're going to talk about the new True Crime game. The game is here at GDC. I got to check it out. I didn't get to play the game, but I got a thorough demo of the game and got a ton of information on it. Yes, it is an open world game. Yes, you can jack any car that you see laying around. Yes, you can pick up any blunt trauma instrument you see lying around and beat people with it.
Is it Hong Kong or?
It is Hong Kong.
Okay.
It's not a block per block replication like they had done with the past True Crime games. They kind of just took inspiration from Hong Kong. They created 4 distinct districts. I think 3 of them are actually real districts in Hong Kong, and one of them is a fictional one. But they are doing some really cool things with this. They're addressing a lot of the issues people have had with open world games in the past. Like the hand-to-hand stuff in the game is crazy extensive. There's a full countering system. There's the whole Hong Kong action flick element of it. You can smash people into objects. You can use them as a meat shield and run with them, so they have running meat shields. There's all kinds of cool sort of kung fu, karate moves that you can do.
The one cool thing I saw in the gameplay, which I guess we said Red Dead is going to have it too, but you can shoot guns out of people's hands.
Yep.
I think that's really cool. I'd like to see that.
There's other cool, like there's a cover system in the game as you might expect, but one of the cool things is you can run up to a piece of cover and you can jump over it. And as you slide over it, you can actually attack guys on the other side of the cover and like kick them in the head.
The animation for that kind of slide hurdle looked a little not good.
Yeah, but what you're not realizing is that the whole game is set up to free run. So you basically just hold forward and your guy automatically navigates everything.
I just hope they kind of make the animation have a couple different routines.
But I think what you're not realizing is that it's not like a canned animation. It's like dynamic because you can slide over any flat surface in the game. If you run up to it, you automatically start sliding across it. So
but the actual animation doesn't look dynamic though. The actual visuals.
Well, it changes how long he slides,
right.
And then he does the kick off the end of the obstacle. So it may look awkward depending on how long the slide you're making before you do. I think it's cool personally.
Oh no, it looks cool, but I saw like a 2-minute cut down. It looked like the same exact thing every time.
Yep, and there's objects littered all over the environment that you can use for environmental attacks. You can slam people into like fuse boxes and electrocute them. If you're near a refrigerator, you can slam their head in the refrigerator. Just the whole hand-to-hand mano-a-mano part of the game is definitely a vast improvement over any other open world game.
Can you sever hands with the meat cleavers?
No, I don't think there was any In fact, we asked him in the interview like how violent the game was going to get, and he said while they're going for an M, they want it to be realistic, so they don't want like jibs laying all over the place after you finish a battle or whatever.
Pansies.
Yes, I don't think there's going to be decapitations or limbs getting lopped off or anything like that. So the vehicles in the game is one step back. The only vehicles they have are motorcycles, cars,
rickshaws,
and boats. No, like power boats.
Oh, okay.
Maybe they have rickshaws. I didn't ask, but I didn't see it. What'd you say?
Bikes.
No bicycles that I saw. But so there's not going to be any air-based vehicles at all, which is kind of a shame. But one thing that's cool is if you're riding on a motorcycle, you can hijack a car while you're in motion. So you can pull up beside the car, sort of beat the crap out of the guy driving, hop into the car, and then take control of the car. You can't go car to car, though. It's only motorcycle to car. And like I said, there's only boats. There's no helicopters, no planes. Not quite sure why that is. They wouldn't really answer the question. Well, they did, but it's the typical, we really wanted to focus on the vehicles and the boats line.
Is there going to be a supernatural aspect to the game this time around?
Well, they haven't revealed that yet, but I hope there isn't, because that was pretty odd in the last game. It didn't really fit in the way it probably should have.
I remember like all the GTA kids bought it and were like, wait, what?
Yeah, the driving in the game is much more arcade-like. They have a couple guys from the Need for Speed team working on the game. In fact, they've kind of pulled together an all-star cast of developers, which usually means certain doom. But they have people from Scarface, from Godfather, from the Need for Speed series. Basically pulled people from all these different teams that they thought they would need to work on this game to make sure that every separate element of it was good.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't seen the game myself yet, but obviously, this is appealing to the Grand Theft Auto crowd. One of the major selling points, obviously, with GTA is the story and people feeling, compelled to go through the game. Everything we've talked about so far in this game that you've mentioned is like really interesting from a gameplay mechanic standpoint.
Yep.
But isn't there the fear that if this doesn't have like a really good story that compels people to move forward? I mean, that's the brilliance of GTA. From what you've seen, is this game going to offer that, or is it just going to be a bunch of like tech demo stuff smashed together in Hong Kong?
Well, just to set it up quickly, it's basically about this guy who's born in Hong Kong. His family moves to the U.S., so he's raised in the U.S. He becomes a cop. And then because of his heritage, they send him over to break up the triad or whatever. So he's basically an undercover cop. So there's this whole duality. Like, what's so funny?
I just think that sounds ridiculous. I mean, it's like, I don't know, it sounds like a Jean-Claude Van Damme
We don't
movie
have
or
any
something.
cops in Hong Kong. We're gonna send an American over there.
Yeah, so he goes over to break up the triad. They only showed really one sort of mission cutscene. You go over to this guy's place. The guy's like, this guy's done me wrong. We need to kill him. The main character in the game says it's probably not a good idea to kill him because then it'll start a gang war. He's like, you're right, so we should go over there and take him out alive. And then you guys all roll out and you go over and take him out. The writing I saw on that was okay. Voice acting was okay. I'm hoping they could have had better scenes to show for the first time they showed the game. So maybe that wasn't as an auspicious debut as maybe you'd hope in that realm. But, it's hard based upon one cutscene to make any kind of judgment on the game. But based upon what I've seen so far, there didn't seem anything out of the ordinary. But it was very typical. You walk into the room, there's a guy sitting behind the desk. He's dropping the F-bomb every other word, bossing his guys around, that type of stuff. So
Right. It's just, you get worried about like just the generic, just a generic story, and being able to go in. Because obviously if they're going to offer however many hours of gameplay, all that cool stuff is, fun to do. But if it's like, cookie cutter story and you're just kind of running through, you're not compelled to move on.
Unless there's hookers.
Unless there's hookers.
And there are hookers.
Okay. Where do I pre-order? Sold. Ding, ding, ding. And that's what I meant by story. You guys have to read between the lines.
Is there going to be multiplayer? Are they completely trying to do a GTA 4?
They want to
here?
focus on ground
No,
vehicles.
they want to focus on the single player. Just like they want to focus on the motorcycles and the cars.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's no multiplayer in the game. I asked him what the length was. He wouldn't really give me a straight answer on that. Like, this is the first time they've shown the game, so they don't really want to spill all the beans on their first time out, which I don't really blame them. Take the mystery out of it when the game is still, 9 months away. So I can understand them wanting to hold some stuff back, but they did show a pretty extensive slice of the game. The gunplay looked good. There's manual aiming and lock-on. But within a lock-on, you have the ability to sort of adjust a little bit. It's basically just like Grand Theft Auto 4, which I thought worked pretty well.
So is this, do you get a Stranglehold vibe from it at all? Or
Oh, no. No, it's not like Stranglehold at all. It's
because
not
the
like,
sliding kind of.
The sliding
yeah,
and the
the
free
sliding
running.
a little
Kong,
bit,
yeah.
but the bullet time is like, there's none of that bullet time
Is John
stuff.
Woo in the game?
No. But I mean, the game does have a Stranglehold vibe. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The environments look very similar. They're all drenched in neon, and there is a lot of that sort of Hong Kong action flick. And that's what they're going for. So I think if that was their goal, they're on their way there. I think people may be disappointed with the vehicle selection, considering, we've been kind of spoiled by the Grand Theft Auto series at this point.
That's the bar. So it's like if you're going to come to play.
Yeah, I asked him about base jumping, parachuting. I mean, it's kind of hard to not do everything that Grand Theft Auto 4 does at this point, right? Unless you're just hoping to be that stopgap game in between the Grand Theft Auto releases, which is kind of what this franchise has always been, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Can you sneak into mainland China and kill dissidents?
No.
Did
Well, I don't know.
Did this strike
should
you
be a
as
game designer.
novel as Just Cause 2 did? Remember when we saw that, we were like, wow, this looks really cool. This is doing some stuff that...
There were parts of it, like the environmental stuff was cool. Like, I really liked the fact that you could attack people after you slide off and stuff. Like, that just seemed like something that I'd never seen before. The running meat shield was really cool because it's like you always take a meat shield and you're like inching and like... So part of the mission at the end, you have to escape. So you chase this guy down, like you get him down to the point, you grab him as a meat shield and you try to run out of the building with the guy while all his cronies are like trying to shoot you without shooting him. So... There's certain parts of it that I was like, wow, that's really cool, and the game could be really cool, but then there were other parts of it where I was like, well, we'll see how that works out. So overall, I'd say it was a pretty good debut. It looks like the quality level already is higher than the past true crime games, which I don't know if that's saying much, but
I see a 7.6.
let's not be too rash to judge. But It was good to see the game after just seeing sort of the trailer from the VGAs and getting a first look at it. Hopefully, we get to see a lot more in the months to come.
Doesn't need more Chow Yun Fat.
It has no Chow Yun Fat, so, I would say, I guess, yes.
The mortal Kratos seeks to destroy all that I have wrought. Brothers, put aside the petty grievances that have splintered us for so long. We will unite. We will stand together. And I will wipe out this plague. Olympus will prevail.
All right, last and certainly not least, God of War 3. Our review's been up for a while now. The game comes out on Tuesday. Obviously, everyone's seen our review, but we want to go...
Doesn't it come out this weekend?
Is it over the weekend?
Aren't they doing one of those weekend launches? I think?
I don't know. We got to put up our review so early, I lose track of when the game actually comes out.
It comes out next year, Shane. You didn't know that.
The game is coming out soon, Ryan, and we want to.
What is game?
What is game? So I just want to get some of your impressions. Pretty much everybody here has played it, at least in pieces,
Or had it spoiled for them in huge
by other people
quantities.
who are sitting at the
you
table.
You guys got some salt in your thing after I said that little
I think the word you're looking for is vagina.
So let's talk about it. Obviously, I reviewed the game, so everyone kind of knows what my opinion of the game is already, but we're interested to get some different opinions. Miguel, you've played, about a little less than half of it at this point.
Yeah.
What do you think so far?
I think it's awesome. It's kind of exactly what I was expecting. I played Bayonetta not too long ago, and the one thing that really hit me, the thing that really grabbed me about that game was the combat and how you have to...
About Bayonetta or God of War?
Bayonetta.
Okay.
You have to stay focused. If you just kind of mash your way through that game, you're going to get brutalized. You're not going to do well, and then you're going to feel like because you get a bronze rating at the end of each fight. In God of War, you don't have to pay as much attention. It's easier to do cool stuff, and the game just feels like it's rewarding you more frequently. But everything else about it is just kind of on a whole different level. The scale of the worlds. Just a kind of imperative momentum you feel as you're going through it. Like you never feel like you're just dilly-dallying around, right? Except for a few of those weird puzzle areas, which I think feel really out of place in that game, by the way.
You think so?
I think so. I mean,
there aren't very many of them, though.
All right, and
there's actually one level towards the end that's kind of ingenious, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand why they do it, because if the game were kind of on full throttle the whole time, you would just get exhausted, right?
Or would you? Why don't they try us out?
But yeah, there's just so many awesome moments, and I guess I'm sorry.
Yeah, why don't you not say them for us, okay?
It's kind of the thing, but in my opinion, the coolest things about that game aren't the cutscenes. It's not the cutscenes where you dismember people. It's showing
you dismember people in the game. Miguel.
Oh my god!
Spoiler!
Oh my god! No, it's when you witness the places where they put you and they kind of ramp up the sense of scale. Like that's what's really worth experiencing in that game. Like who gives a shit? Somebody tells you what happens in the story. You know what's going to happen.
Sure.
Kratos is going to kill all those guys.
In a nutshell.
I thought he invited them over for
whoever
pizza.
you've seen in the game, he's going to kill him.
He sleeps with the girls.
Yeah.
No.
And he kills everybody
a
else.
Girl.
Yeah, I think it's excellent. And
What do you think of the story so far? Did you play God of War 2?
No.
You did it.
I mean, I didn't beat it, but I've played bits and pieces. I don't care though. Like I get it. I know what's going on.
I was about to get upset.
I read
but okay.
I read Edith Hamilton's mythology, and
The story of
looked at-
God of War 2 is kind of convoluted, though.
Is
It's
it?
like stuff. The cutscenes they just jump from one thing to the next. It was hard to follow, and it's funny if you ever read a synopsis of the plot from God of War 2, you're like,
Or
are
watch
you
the one
freaking
we
kidding me?
posted
right
on Game Trailers.
Actually, we just put a plot synopsis up for God of War 2 if you want to watch the video before you play the game. But that plot was so convoluted and so hard to follow. And if you look at it all written down, it makes hardly any sense whatsoever. This plot, to me, was better. I've seen a lot of other people say that they thought the plot was worse. But to me, it was much more simple and easy to understand. The motivations were clear.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a bunch of corny-ass betrayals and twists that you would have seen coming 100 miles away. It was like, Kratos needs to kill Zeus. And here's all kinds of up shit happens in between that tries to keep him from doing it. But you know the whole time that your job is to get Zeus. So
Yeah.
you're you have this tunnel vision of what you're supposed to do, and there's these little bumps in the road that kind of mix things up along the way. But I just thought ultimately the story was stronger for it. It made sense in some way, shape, or form.
And I was surprised at how much I enjoyed the story. I was kind of expecting it to be like, you roll your eyes, and you still kind of do roll your eyes, but
I'll say one thing too. Hold your opinion until you get to the end, because at the end of the
Yes.
game,
Yes.
some things happen that makes you look at Kratos a lot differently.
Does he end up sleeping with Zeus instead of killing him?
That's the mini
Spoilers!
Damn it, Ryan.
I know the basic thing about him.
This is where the motion control
the
comes
evil
in.
he's done in the past.
Right.
I get all that, and
But I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm just saying hold your opinion until you finish the game, because things change.
right.
Yes.
But there are a lot of cool. I think the cutscenes are actually cool. In games like these, I tend to skip them if I can. But I don't know, the way that they depicted the Greek pantheon, it almost feels like they're the X-Men or something.
Yeah. Well, right. He has his group of thugs at the beginning, and it does the whole lineup thing.
Yeah,
and
they
then-
got all their costumes, and they all got
Would
their
that be
power.
the crew that you're like, Kratos is going to kill all these dudes?
Yeah, that's like, okay. I wonder how this guy's gonna attack. I wonder what his moves are.
Yeah. And then eventually the game unfolds, and it sort of gives it to you.
Yeah.
But, so Rich, you played through the whole game.
Twice.
Twice. Rich is probably the world's biggest God of War fan. We'll just preface that before we allow him to go off. You are a huge
I am.
God of War fan.
I am.
And being that, and that's good that we have that perspective here, what is your opinion of the third one?
The third one is the best of the series. The third one ties up the series. The third one was incredibly awesome from beginning to end. I was either smiling or laughing. The game is that
Laughing
good.
during.
I wish everyone could see his face when he's
The game-
expressing this.
God of War 3 is by far my game of the year so far.
Did you rescue Super
absolutely
Joe?
awesome.
And what is it, March 12th?
Yeah.
Someone
Someone didn't play Mass Effect too.
I actually tried to rescue Super Joe, but Kratos killed him. Spoiler.
He's going to kill all of them.
No, I mean it just hands down. I mean some of the
And I agree with
combat-
you 100%.
Yeah,
It's the
I
best
mean-
game in the series.
But
Yes.
is it fairly shorter than the second game?
It is, yeah.
But doesn't
It's
matter.
basically the same length
yeah.
as the first one, maybe a little longer than the first.
But way more bosses.
Yeah. Yeah, there's more of the epic. There's as many epic moments. Well, maybe not as many epic moments as God of War 2.
Maybe not as many, but I mean, just from the,
quality of
start,
them is
yeah,
higher.
the quality is a lot higher. I mean, just from the beginning, when you go into, since everybody knows Poseidon's in game, going into the Poseidon battle is just fantastic.
Well, the Poseidon battle is the best scene from a God of War game ever. And it starts off the game with
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
I think
it's-
that has to be the most painstakingly crafted and paced intro sequence I've played in a while,
It
possibly
starts off
even
with a
ever.
bang.
I mean, they definitely started off with a bang, but then it's like you get that huge rush, and then the game kind of settles in, and you're like, all right, where's the next one? When's the next one going to happen? And
Right.
it
But-
takes
Yeah,
a while.
it
I mean,
does.
but that's they're following what they set up in God of War 2 with the. I mean, that was a crazy first level too. With the what was it, the
They always do
Colossus
that.
Road?
They always
Yeah.
start the game off with a bang, so to speak, and they did it again here. But again, I think, and if you saw the review, you know my criticisms is that the game is very similar, and they don't use the Titans as much as I'd hoped. Like I hoped that was going to be the crux of the game.
Yeah, I was hoping that there were going to be more Titans than there are in the game. Without
Yeah,
trying
because you
to-
really
without
only
spoiling.
interact. Well, I don't get it. I'm gonna spoil
Yeah,
With a
that's,
number.
yeah, that's a yeah. Not without getting into
Five,
a number.
four,
I was
9.
hoping that that because of at the end of God of War 2, how there were multiple Titans.
Right.
I was hoping that there would be more Titan interaction.
Right.
in
Yeah,
God of War 3.
the whole scale thing that they've been pushing did seem interesting. I was hoping it would actually be some kind of next level Shadow of Colossus stuff with like fighting on things that you can fall off of and
Right.
that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
And
That's what
the
I was.
game never really goes there.
And I'm not surprised it didn't happen, but I still like to dream.
What about that part with
Cast.
the cubes? Not to, I guess, not to say too much. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Though? The scale on that was insane. You felt like you were in this like cosmic
You're
giant
ruining
machine.
the game for me.
Were
You
in
realize
Johnny
that.
Cash shirt?
Well, you end up seeing that area a couple times throughout the game. That's another thing too. You do end up sort of coming back to a lot of the areas, but I think they do such a good job of making the side routes that get you back to those areas so different that you pop out and you're like, how did I get back here? Like you have no idea. So and then it's like rewarding because then you have new powers. You're like, oh, now I know what these things.
Oh
are
yeah,
for.
no new game plus, huh? After everyone bitched about it in the first game, they added it to the second game. No new game plus this time around.
no.
bull.
Hey, Borat.
Yeah, but I will say, I mean, like I said, going into the the beginning of the game, going into the Poseidon fight was awesome. Then later on, everybody knows you're gonna meet Hades. The intro to that fight was just, I was nervous. It not freaked out, but I was just like, okay. And then of course Sony revealed in the Vengeance trailer, Hades' intro. I mean that. Going into that was kind of freaky, but it was awesome. That fight is awesome.
The fight itself was sick. You see, I wish we could talk about this game again, like after people have played it.
We could come back to it later. But here's the big question. So, $60. Will you spend $60 for this game?
I will.
It's 8 hours long, and you'll spend $60.
I bought a PS3 for this game.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did.
So I mean, that's the truth. And like, I haven't played it yet because I'm going to play it when it comes out. And the truth is, honestly, I held off on a PS3 for a long time, just because I didn't feel. I've chronicled this elsewhere, but like basically, it didn't have the games that appealed to me the most.
I'm waiting for the motion controller, huh?
I was waiting for Move. I was waiting for them to make their move, and they did. No, but God of War was one of those games. Uncharted, and Uncharted 2 and all that stuff as well. But God of War 3 is literally the main reason I bought a PS3, and I'm totally excited. Even if it is short, it's the experience. And I think
but this is my question. So you're okay spending $60 when you can go to a Blockbuster or Netflix and spend $5 and beat it in 2 nights? Because that's how I beat it in 2 nights.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, obviously, I see that point. It's something to where, like, I feel like this is a home run for Sony. I feel like it's, when you have a console exclusive like that. In the same way, I'm a huge, like I mentioned before about Mass Effect, that's my favorite franchise. So, like, I want to support it. Like, I want to go out and buy the game and get the special edition and all this stuff. And in that same way, I feel like with God of War, this is their big thing, and it's like, this defines what the PlayStation is for hardcore gamers, and so I want to get it, even if I play it, like you've already played it twice, Rich.
Yes.
So like, I'll probably play it more than once, but if nothing less, I feel like I was a part of what God of War 3 meant to gaming.
Right.
What about you, Miguel?
Would I buy it? Yeah, I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's I kind of some games I like to have around. And it's worth it.
Yeah,
to
but
me.
I'll say this: as time has gone on, and I've been doing what you're doing, DK, for my entire life.
Which is why your house is filled with video game shops.
Exactly, and now I'm to the point where I'm like, why have I been doing this?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I love to support the industry. There's no doubt about it, and I always will. But there are just piles and piles and piles of video games at my house that I haven't even opened in 20 years.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I doing this? I've seen that show Hoarders on TV. I'm like, I'm a video game hoarder. Like, I haven't touched these games. They've come out of the box when I moved, and they'll go right back in a box when I move again.
Sure.
So I'm starting to question, like, why am I blindly buying so many games?
Maybe you'll become a dragon and you'll just lay on them.
You'll sleep on them.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. I mean, I got rid of pretty much 3/4 of all the game stuff I had when I moved to LA.
Yeah.
And I didn't even sell it. I gave it away. I gave it to friends who wanted it.
Sure.
Right? But I don't know. I mean, if a lot of it is that buying it is the most expedient way to get it. I don't want to go and schlep my ass to a Blockbuster and try to find it and have to turn it back in later,
But this game you can finish in one day, really, if you want to.
Yeah, I guess just the ability to play it leisurely is worth it to me. And
No, but see, this game you won't play it that way. It's so good
I'll
that you
crack
will
out
play
and
it in 1
bust
or 2
through.
days.
So,
Yes.
so then let me pose the question: is God of War 3 the ultimate game rental? Is it like the reason why game rental places exist?
I can't think of a better game to rent than God of War 3.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe you get everything you need out of it during your rental period. I mean, you'd be able to play it twice and play the challenge modes like for a good portion of time before you'd have to return it.
Yeah, this is one of those games that I will definitely not rent. I will buy God of War 3. I absolutely. I mean, the
I
reason
kind of had a feeling.
Yeah,
I was kind of unsure about that.
but in all honesty, the reason I bought a PlayStation 3 was for 2 games. It was for Metal Gear Solid 4 and God of War 3. And so I will absolutely buy this. There's no question.
Ryan.
Now I'm gonna just buy another copy of Demon Souls. No, I mean your argument makes complete reasonable sense, but people aren't.
And trust me, it's not really an
People aren't-
argument. I'm playing devil's advocate
Sure.
here, just for on conversation.
But I mean, people aren't reasonable. I mean, yeah, like all the big games. If I have a passing interest and I have the money, I pick them up.
what if you're
That's
the
just what I
kid
do.
that has to bust his ass to get a game, or he gets a couple games?
But,
a year?
you know, that's
do you
the thing-
recommend for that kid to buy the game?
Yeah, because this is the kind of game that. Here's the thing: is when we're older and we actually have money. When I was a kid, I'd play the game 100 times.
Right.
And this is the kind of game I don't think, as Rich can back up, you're not really going to mind playing again. I mean, back in the day, like the people that bought survival horror games when they first came around. I mean, those are. Once you know what to do, those are 3-hour games, but they're still like such a great experience. It is something that you can pop in every once in a while. And just experience.
And I do think God of War 3 is pretty much the trophy for the PS3. It's the one that
Absolutely.
when people come to your house and you say, "Hey, I got a PS3," usually
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
like me, you have the box.
Can you get all the
standing
trophies?
up,
Can you get all the
polished.
trophies
Platinum,
in one
right.
rental period?
I don't know. Depends on how you play it. I guess.
actually
If
Trophy
you play
whore.
it for trophies, you probably could.
or trophy whore?
Bottom line is the game is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody should go out, rent it, or buy it, depending on your financial situation. You can definitely get a ton out of it through a rental. If you're broke and can't afford it, you're not going to miss out on much if you do rent it. But on some level, I do totally agree about supporting the industry. I mean, the game was in development for 3 years.
And what it costs, like $40-something million,
Yeah.
they said, right?
Yeah, and if you at some level, if you want to continue to have these types of games made, you do have to buck
Speak
up
with
and
your
pay.
wallet.
And that's why I have closets and closets full
That's
of
right.
video games.
I just say this to everyone out there: if you want to support not only the industry, but if you especially want to support Sony Santa Monica and you want them to keep putting out, or you give them the ability to keep putting out games such as God of War 3, go out and buy it.
This message was brought to you by Kratos.
Rich Brown
This message is brought to you by the God of War.
and PlayStation. All right, that's going to do it for episode 98. Episode 100 right around the corner. It's going to be sweet.
Balloons, cake.
I'm not going to tell DK. DK, wish you could be there for episode 100, actually. Thank you for stopping by.
Absolutely.
Always good to have you on the show.
Thanks
you
for
definitely
having
bring
me.
a new perspective to the show, and it's good to have you on. Rich, Miguel, Ryan, our first ever show on the road. I think it turned out pretty well. At least I hope it turned out pretty well. We're kind of sending this recording on and putting it in the hands of our editors. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please check out our GDC coverage. It'll be rolling all the way through the weekend. I have one tidy page for you to get to it all. There's definitely some good stuff from the show, so check it out. We'll see you guys next week. Invisible Walls is up and out.
Buy God of War 3.
Come on, man.